Hello, everyone who's rolling in. So thanks so much for taking some time out of your day. We're just going to give everyone a minute or so before they're able to hop online. While you're waiting, if you want to share in the chat where you're from, where you're joining us from in the world. I know we have people from all over, so interested what countries people are joining from. And I'll start. I'm up in Canada.
Us snows are in Miami, Florida. Originally from Jersey.
Oh, we have someone from California. Awesome. Perfect. Hello, everyone who's joining. So we're just waiting a couple minutes to allow all of our registrants to hop online before we actually get started with our webinar.
Do not use the elevators.
There's a fire alarm that just went off in my building, so
Oh no.
I need to go downstairs or something.
Oh, timing of that. Oh, I hope everything's all right in your building, Dan.
No utilice los elevadores. Solo diríjase hacia las escaleras y abandone.
Yeah, mute yourself.
John, are you all right to go through Dan's portion of the slides if he's not able to hop back on?
I think, Dan, you want to try to join from your laptop downstairs?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to join from my laptop downstairs.
There has been a
All right, so head down.
All right, everyone. Got real-time technical challenges happening, but we can hop in and get started. We can chat through a couple of the first slides. John, I think you're running the first little bit. We can see where we can get to. So we're at about 3 minutes past the hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time out of your day to talk a little bit about digital marketing strategies and growth. My name is Tila Beischer. I am our product marketing manager here at Stamped, and this is our community thought leadership webinar series where we invite other partners to come in and share their expertise and to share their knowledge. So we're going to be about an hour today. Our webinar is all about scaling brands online, and we are joined by the two founders of the Snow Agency, which is a digital marketing firm. A couple pieces of housekeeping before we get started. One, we are recording today and we will share recording in the follow-up email. So no need to take too fast of notes. You're going to get the recording afterwards. The other is that there is a chat function and a Q&A function. We've blocked off lots of time for Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, please submit them as you go and we'll get to them as we can. When you're sending in the chat, make sure that you change it to everyone instead of just panelists so that others can see your question too. There is that function on Zoom. Last thing that I will mention is that we'll send out the recording today and we are running a follow-up or a part 2 to this webinar on August 4th at the exact same time. So we'll actually just add you to that event right away so that you're able to get the follow-up to this information. Today, we're kind of setting up the building blocks of scaling a brand. And then in that follow-up event, we're actually going to talk about optimization and planning for the future. So an exciting 2-part series. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Annette. Annette is our manager of partnerships here at Stamped. And Annette is going to kind of kick it off and introduce who our special guests are today.
Hi, everyone. As Tila mentioned, I'm the manager of partnerships here at Stamped. Really excited for this 2-part webinar series where I have my 2 very own brothers who are CEO and COO and co-founders of the Snow Agency, a very well-established agency in this space. They've been in digital marketing and e-commerce for close to a decade. They got started on the influencer and affiliate marketing side as they've built a platform that drove over 8 figures in revenue through influencer marketing. After that, they started their own e-commerce holding company and they launched, scaled, and exited numerous Shopify brands. And then over the past 3 years, they've been operating their full service digital marketing agency, which is the Snow Agency. And they specialize in paid social, paid search, retention and lifestyle cycle marketing, UGC services, conversion rate optimization, as well as photo and video production. So I'll hand it over to John to introduce himself, give a little bit of his background, and then he can pass it along to Dan.
Hey guys, thanks for the intro, Annette. Nothing better than doing a webinar with your own little sister. But my name is Jonathan Snow. You might see the two letters doctor in front of my name. I'm actually an orthodontist by trade, but don't practice anymore because I couldn't juggle two careers, not enough time in the day to kind of carry out both. But as Annette mentioned, I've been in the digital marketing e-commerce space for close to a decade alongside Dan, where we did build that influencer and affiliate marketing platform. But then where we really dug our teeth into the industry was when we owned close to 10 of our own Shopify brands, all brands we launched from scratch and built an internal team and scaled those brands from 0 to 8 figures in revenue within 6 months, repeatedly across different product verticals. And we were using the same strategies and blueprint we built from brand 1 on brand 2, brand 3, brand 4, all the way up through brand 10, and had the same predictable results. 99% of the strategies were the same, but they were applicable and proven to work on basically any brand on Shopify. And that served as the foundation for us launching the Snow Agency, which we're, as Annette mentioned, a full service digital marketing agency focusing on pretty much everything A to Z in the digital marketing space, specifically direct to consumer brands. And we did launch a content production studio as well in New Jersey, where we do product photography and videography, which is our newest addition to our performance marketing suite. So I'll pass it over to Dan now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Snow. Have been, like John mentioned, kind of pretty similar backgrounds. So been in the space for close to a decade now, doing performance marketing as well. Interestingly enough, like John mentioned, got started on the organic social side, did a lot with influencers, and that's how it all came together for our agency. And that's kind of an interesting perspective we have, seeing many different aspects of the online advertising landscape. So yeah.
All right, we can go to the next slide. So just wanted to briefly go over what Stamped is, who we are. So we are a top review and loyalty platform for e-commerce. We help you establish brand credibility by building trust and giving your customers a voice. And at the end of this webinar, before our Q&A, we're going to discuss exactly how Stamped can help you accomplish some of the things that John and Dan will be discussing today. So I won't go into too much detail about it now, and we can kick it off. So I'll pass it along to Tila.
This is actually going to be for John and Dan to talk through a little bit about the Snow Agency.
Cool. So yeah, so the Snow Agency is a full service digital marketing agency. Just quick slide, just so you guys can see kind of like the scope of services that we do. We essentially have our hand in anything related to performance marketing and advertising. Now, huge focus is on the creative and landing page and on-site strategies that go into the actual ads. So that's a lot of our focus and a lot of stuff we're going to be going over in this presentation. So just a quick topic overview, just so everyone sees the topics that we're going to be discussing. I'm going to be going over performance marketing and how to grow your brand online. John is going to be going over e-commerce optimization and the future of digital.
And then I'll add that these other these areas here, these are going to be for our part 2 for the follow-up event that we're going to run as well.
So the first side is the blend of performance marketing and brand. So this is just a slide to just go over, especially from the agency side. This is something that we constantly battle with against internal teams. For those on this webinar who work on the brand side, I'm sure you guys can relate and resonate with this slide as well. So really, ultimately, what we as performance marketers see that there is, of course, value in building brand. And we say, and some of the things that go into brand are strategies, messaging, the community, which is extremely important for the sustainability of a brand, and being able to leverage that community for new product launches, content, getting ideas for future products that you might roll out along the way, customer experience. And on the performance marketing side, this is more so the actual when we think performance marketing, is how someone sees the brand online, what captures their attention, and some of the more raw creatives that go into the more performance side. And able to marry the two is ultimately what we see it as a success. And we can go to the next slide. So this is just a quick slide we'll go over specifically to TikTok, which has been a huge, which is really what's for the first time for the brands who are focused just on the branded side need to start opening up their being more open-minded to being accustomed to just more raw content. So here's just some examples of larger enterprise brands like Duolingo, specifically using TikTok to win awards. And this is done through a type of content style that is a lot more raw and organic. It has a lot more relatable voice to it if anyone has seen some of their TikToks. So being able to take risks can have large rewards, especially doing so on the TikTok platform, working with just a lot more raw content instead of the more aesthetic content that a lot more brands are familiar with today. Oh, and then on the right side, that's just an example of Instagram. You know, essentially how we leverage our Instagram feeds are, especially from the performance side, you know, it's ultimately used at how we see it as a landing page. You know, customers go from the ad to the profile to just see if the brand, you know, trust is constantly the biggest thing that we battle to get that instant purchase. So if you're able to alleviate that trust concern, and doing so with an Instagram profile is the place to do it. Places like TikTok, or as we see it, are the place to take risks from the content side. We'll go to the next slide. So this is just an overview of the digital marketing pipeline. So a big thing that I wanted to go over that's not completely standard with, I think, most brands and how they're cultivating their ads is the first step that goes into before we make any of our ads is performing market research, testimonial mining, competitor analysis. This is an extremely thorough process that if you guys are not, if there's one takeaway on this, like this is really what you guys should be focused on, because this itself this could be a whole presentation in itself. I'm just quickly going over it now, but essentially this is the foundation that we use for our entire ad strategy. This is where we get our angles, our hooks, understanding the nuances of the brand, understanding the purchase, the reasons why customers are making purchases on the brand side and on their competitors. Sometimes there's a brand that's starting from scratch. Obviously, they're not going to have any data on why customers are making purchase because no customers have made a purchase. That's when going to places like the competitors' reviews, Reddit, YouTube, etc., just going through all the comments, identifying any patterns is really important, because more likely than not, your brand is going to have a similar target demographic. So being able to perform this testimonial mining is another thing which within the market research, where once again, you're understanding the purchase motivations, you're understanding the reasons why customers potentially weren't happy, you're understanding the pain points in the product, and just being able to reverse engineer this to then use in scripts for your creators, in scripts you might be making a video in the studio. In the next slides, we'll go over especially reverse engineering all these reasons I just laid out, and how to also create the advertorials that we're going to go over, and being able to take the marketing angles and within those, and then being able to back that out into some of the scripts that you're working with your creators with. Anyways, once you have all of this done, then we can start, and we have some content made. Top of funnel, there's TikTok ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads. With iOS 14, as everyone knows, attribution has gotten a lot worse. So understanding that, especially from these top of funnel platforms, that it simply is not going to attribute all the sales there. Especially what we're seeing now is that a lot of these are going to this isn't new, but because of the decrease in attribution, we've seen an uptake in Google reporting a lot of sales, especially on the brand side. So then mid-funnel, we have Google search ads, organic social. Once again, customers, if they're not buying right away, are going to your social. That's why it's really important to invest in a clean Instagram feed, Facebook feed, etc. Because essentially, like I said, customers are using this essentially as a landing page. Then we have website, email, SMS, retargeting. So once you got the customer already might have visited the page, you might have already gave the brand your email, and now there's a chance to win them into a customer through potential incentive or through just more information about your product, potentially letting your customers know how all the products work, some reviews, etc. And finally, we have the most valuable segment is customers who've already made a purchase. So this should really be the largest focus, if not already, into having a sustainable brand online. Is if your customers are not making repeated purchases, it's really, really, really difficult to survive in this current environment for performance marketing. So having a really good strategy in place for retaining your customers, and even if possible, if relevant, having subscription components is really, really vital into just having a sustainable brand today. So yeah, you can go into the next slide. So this is what I constantly preach to our team as the biggest lever in performance marketing, which is what we call performance PR. So it's essentially being able to, like I mentioned, now that we have all our market research done, we have all these various stats and understanding the buying motivations for customers. We understand their pain points, we understand their demographics, we understand what might potentially lead them to making a purchase. Now we can reverse engineer all of this into turning it into angles that will allow them to resonate through that. So also, if you guys are still sending traffic from top of funnel to product pages, you should stop doing this immediately and look into this, because just this strategy is just proven to outperform top of funnel, at least sending traffic to product pages literally every time if you're doing this the right way. So an example of this on the right side, which you guys can see, this is we worked with. This is actually a brand that me and John just launched. We're actually co-founders in. So prior to launch, you can't really read this article, but you can read the title. So we were able to write it, place it on Men's Journal, and leverage the market research into this entire article. So we found out that this example I'll make, that gut health can lead to emotional related things. So, and here something extreme was depression and brain fog and fatigue. So brain fog and fatigue could actually be a little known fact for those who aren't aware from having leaky gut syndrome or many other things wrong with your gut. So we wrote this in an organic way, didn't try to immediately sell the brand in the title. It just looks like an interesting piece of content they might already find on a BuzzFeed style article or something else, just informational that they can read upon, that if people click into this, they're already in market for, they might already have these symptoms and they're going to read and try to get a solution to their issues. So just leveraging this style of content simply works. And once again, that all comes from the market research. So we test various angles that complement your specific ad creatives. Like I mentioned, there's third-party placements like Men's Journal, Life and Style, Fitness. There's tons of different websites you guys can get placements on. If not, agencies like ours, we in fact even created our own. So we have what we call content hubs. I actually have an example of a video you'll see in the next few slides, so we can move on to that. Oh, and finally, if you go back to the last slide. So a really cool tool, if you guys do have PR, is to use a tool called Sustainably, which if you can see on the bottom right, the bottom of the Men's Journal article, you'll see a little pop-up that says better mental physical health, start with your gut, 50% off now with a call to action, get Flora. This is especially, this looks a lot just more relevant on mobile, especially, as you guys can imagine, which most of the traffic is today. So this allows you to place a pixel on top of your PR article and a call to action, because a lot of these PR articles don't have great placements of PR of call to actions for obvious reasons. So this gives you a lot more control over these PR articles and leveraging them for an actual performance landing page. So that's a huge hack that we use in all these various PR placements that we get. You can go to the next slide. So next is just creating this is just like an example of how we leverage creative for these PR performance articles. So the Daily Post is actually a third-party, essentially online magazine that the agency runs. This is just an example of a creative that leads to a landing page that's reviewed by our team. So as you guys can see here, this looks just like a completely organic piece of content. Doesn't look like an ad. It looks for any women who are in market to purchase a moisturizer. We're not immediately selling something. We're simply reviewing the top 5 moisturizers at a time. Also disclosing that their sponsorships and how we review these articles and so forth. Anyways, as you guys can see here, this is just one example. There's many formats that we use. This is just an example and format that simply works. So yeah, you can go to the next one. So the biggest bottleneck for all brands is a variety of content. There's been a huge push into video, for rightfully so, over the last few years. And as you guys can see in that last example, photo content in many ways that we're seeing right now, especially if you're leveraging Content Hub articles, kind of like I just went over, the photo ads actually have been outperforming videos in terms of click-through rate if you're doing it the right way. This is because a customer doesn't need to watch 60 seconds of a video. UGC is also does not behave as well as it did a few years ago, simply because every brand is using it today. I'm not saying it doesn't work. You should definitely still use it. Simply just like as a broad generalized statement, click-through rates on that just simply are not as high as I used to see in 2017, 2018, et cetera. So photo ads work really well today. And when I say photo ads, kind of like the organic style ones, clickbaity type photos that lead to these PR articles. That's because, once again, it just looks like a completely organic native piece of content on the timeline. If you're using photo ads for aesthetic, like a pretty picture of your product and expecting, or pretty lifestyle picture of your product and expecting a high click-through rate on that, it's most likely not going to happen. But anyways, to get to this, so the biggest bottleneck for all brands, as everyone knows, is creative. That's because creative constantly stagnates. Creative fatigue is a huge thing. So when you do have winning creative, you can't stop there. You constantly need to get more creative. So the question is, how do you get it? And before that, like I mentioned, UGC still is the best type of video content we see, and all the different ways you can use it and leverage it. So focusing on being able to get UGC in a consistent manner, once again, leveraging that market research, getting UGC from customers who represent your target demographic or demographics is extremely crucial. Giving them scripts to utilize is extremely crucial. If you guys are just sending products to people and expecting great videos in return that'll just instantly convert into sales, like most likely it's not going to happen. So there's really two different ways you can get UGC. One is from your current customer base, which we see here. There's ways you can incentivize them with free products, discount, money. You can automate this through review apps like Stamped, who we're obviously on the call with today, which is an awesome one we use with Laura. So there's essentially two different decisions you have to understand, whereas like your current customer base is going to need a lot more handholding in order to make content, simply because they don't do this professionally. And because of that, you might not get ideal content. On the plus side, because they are your actual customer, typically they will speak a lot more enthusiastically about your product, and their physical attributes represent your customer base, because once again, they are your product. So what I find is even if it's not the best content, sometimes authentic UGC, even if it might not be said the best way, said the most articulately, etc., actually converts better into sales. Anyways, if you don't have any customers or don't have enough to get a consistent flow of content through your customer base, there are platforms like Incense is one that we really recommend. It's essentially a platform that has tens of thousands of professional creators who you can connect with and essentially post a job posting, and they will create content for your brand. You provide scripts through the platform. Another really cool thing is you can whitelist their social accounts through the platform as well. What I mean by this is you can run ads. So Kayla, let's say Kayla is on the platform. We can do all that, and through the platform, we can also whitelist and be able to run ads from her TikTok page, from her Instagram, Facebook page, etc., which is a great way, once again, if you guys are not already doing this, just like there's creative fatigue, there's fatigue from the pages you're running as well. So let's say your brand is, I don't know, Kayla Itzeen's fitness thing, and people will ultimately, if they keep seeing the same brand in their timeline, there's brand fatigue as well. So they might not click into that just because they know that it's an ad they're being sold to. But if you're constantly running ads from a multitude of pages, your brand page, dozens of influencer pages, potentially different online magazines like Men's Health, for example, if you have access to that, that simply gives your brand a much better chance of capturing customers who have already seen your ads a few times and were immediately interested. So this works really well, especially in retargeting as well, and customers who've already seen your brand a few times. Another great tool is the TikTok Creator Marketplace. This is a free tool to use. Makes it really easy to connect with creators. So yeah, go to the next slide. Here's just a few content examples. So the first one is just UGC problem solution. This is the format that works. You always want to go over the problem first, identify your product as the solution. This is just a little example of a video. I'm going to click through that.
Health conditions, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, as well as certain mood and behavior disorders too. And unfortunately, added sugar is being added to so many of our favorite food products, including breakfast cereals, bread products, snacks, even certain baby foods and kids' vitamins do too. Did you know that the average kid vitamin has about 5 grams of added sugar? My name is Melanie Murphy. I am a registered dietitian and holistic nutritionist. So when parents come to me to ask me what vitamin is best for their kids, I suggest Haya vitamins because there is 0 sugar. It's made from 12 fruits and vegetables, and it's supercharged with 15 essential nutrients, including vitamin D, folate, methylated B12, and zinc.
So this is just a great format that works. If you guys look into it, it's, it would look like something authentic on the timeline, especially if you're a parent. So it's like little known facts. People love to consume new information, especially on TikTok. And now that's repurposed for Instagram and YouTube. YouTube has shorts, Instagram has reels, etc. So this format works on all platforms. So just presenting new information, especially for people with kids, like, did you know, little known facts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's organic piece of content that's relevant, that will introduce our product later on. Then a authority in the space. So now it's someone who has credibility presenting these problems. And then finally, the recommended solution to those problems with the product once they already have the attention. So this is a format that just works. Doesn't matter if you're selling kids vitamins or something else random, problem solution, it just works. It's just best practice. That is all something here's an example of the performance PR that I made. I think it was my first piece of UGC that I ever made. I had the idea to test this out, test a new concept, and just see how it performed. I think we've already spent, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000 or something like that on this ad in the last few weeks. So it's working well. It goes through the same type of format I just went over. Product discovery. So, well, first problem. So you guys can see that the breakdown. I have this problem, which is true. I really did have this problem. That was why, it's what inspired me to launch Chlora. Discovery. So I had a problem. I went online, discovered the reasons why this might happen, came upon this website. Then finally solution, which is the problem and end result. So it goes through that whole format, and it's something that works. So you always want to do this in kind of an organic manner. If you want to just quickly play the video.
I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I've been dealing with bloating, constipation, and brain fog for years now. And I never really did anything about it, but after finally gaining tons of weight and just feeling terrible, I went to Google to see if there were any supplements that could help with my symptoms and get rid of my bloating once and for all. So I found this article from the Daily Post that ranked the top 5 supplements that could potentially help with my bloating problems. And they ranked this product, Bloat Digest by Chlora, #1. So naturally, I wanted to buy the best product. And I've been taking it for 6 months now, and I'm stoked to say that I haven't been bloated or had constipation issues since I've been taking the product. Every time I go out to dinner, I give it to all my friends and highly recommend it to anyone. Super interesting, the article, 40% of Americans also have this. So if you're one of that 40% like me, you got to take it to save a life.
So yeah, the product really does work that well. I do take it every day. I've been taking it for the last 1.5 years. Quick plug, but yeah, so as you can see, this is a format that just works. It's constantly iterating. I'm addressing the whole target market, which is pretty sizable, 40%. Little known facts, my own review of the product. Once again, trying to break that trust barrier and doing it in an organic fashion. I know a lot of people also were asking about iOS 14. There's no solution to iOS 14. There's no hack to iOS 14. There's ultimately no answer. The answer is just good marketing. That's really it. So doing things like this, performance PR, once again, is the biggest lever for performance right now. And doing it in this organic sort of fashion is just simply what's working best for us across the board. So that's what we're doing to combat iOS 14. It's not a solution, it's just good marketing. And that's what's allowing us to scale brands in our agency right now. Another example is UVP key features. So this is one of our clients. Quickly play that. So yeah, UVP key features, another format, just works. Go to the next slide. We don't have to go through all of these. I guess you could quickly see, this is just another example, us versus them. It's just a quick one. So yeah, that's just another quick example. We don't have to go through all these videos. We can go to the next slide. So the next thing is TikTok, top of funnel. Once again, everyone talking about iOS 14, Facebook. Facebook, I do want to say, is still the most consistent solution for acquiring new customers. It is a lot more expensive today, and attribution sucks, for lack of better words, but it still is the best. But TikTok has emerged as a phenomenal way to acquire customers organically and through ads. And if you guys aren't currently doing this, you need to do this because it truly does feed the funnel. And once again, talking about attribution, we've noticed, especially for example, I'll go back to a new brand like Chlora we just launched. A lot of Chlora sales come from the branded search on Google. Why would this be happening if it's a brand new brand that's only 2 months old? It comes from top of funnel, from TikTok, from Facebook, etc. So if you're simply just looking at the attributable sales on TikTok and Facebook, it's going to be a hard time for you to ever scale ad spend. You really need to look at it holistically. Tools like Northbeam and Triple Whale help a little bit, but they are by no means a perfect solution at all. And once again, if you're only looking at these, you're doing your brand a disservice. So anyways, so there's 3 pillars to TikTok. The first is, I briefly mentioned before, working with creators and UGC organically. So you cannot just take what you have on Facebook and Instagram and repurpose it to TikTok organically and through ads. It simply won't work. TikTok content works on TikTok. So working with creators to make that TikTok content is what you need to do as a next step. A great tool here is that it has leverage because TikTok content sets the trends right now really for the internet. That's why Instagram, YouTube, etc. have just tried to emulate that, and they literally are the same thing. In fact, you can literally take your TikTok content, repost it on Instagram Reels, repost it on YouTube Shorts, repost on Facebook Reels. And why this has so much leverage is that all of these platforms are trying to compete with TikTok. So they're giving their Reels or their Shorts, whatever you want to call it, huge priority in the feed. And these, simply just reposting it, you can get tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of free impressions on these other platforms completely for free. So for example, if you just are working with creators on TikTok, you have the opportunity to get impressions there. You'll repost on all these platforms and be able to get more visibility, more awareness, and potentially more sales organically with no additional work involved. So who doesn't want that? It's great. You can also obviously use this content on ads. So that's why it's such a big lever to have a presence on TikTok. Isn't just because you're running ads or having a presence there. It's also for the content that you can repurpose for all these other platforms. So platform native UGC should be delivered as final ad ready content. And just like we discussed, what works the best right now is native looking content on all platforms. TikTok is the epitome of this. If your content on the ad as an ad looks like an ad, it most likely will not convert. People don't want to be sold to on TikTok. But because TikTok is such a discovery platform, that's the format you guys should look for is that discovery type ad like I showed you. That was actually made on TikTok. The green screen is a TikTok format, and that's why it worked so well on TikTok, worked well on Instagram, Facebook, etc. Next is that TikTok ads are becoming the next best top of funnel traffic source with Facebook. Traffic is what we're seeing significantly cheaper than Facebook, in some instances 50% cheaper or more, which is significant, especially feeding that traffic into your page, getting more emails, getting more attempts at converting them to customers, et cetera, et cetera. Spark posts really work great for this. Spark posts are essentially allow you to run an ad from the creator's page, so it looks completely organic and native in the feed. This creates it. So this also, like the ad I showed you, if you guys go to, that was a Spark post from the Daily Post that has 500,000 views, and that was all driven from a Spark post. But now other customers see that, it validates it, it allows it to build up customer engagement and feedback. And once again, looks native, emphasizing that. Finally is organic management. Once again, your page is essentially acting as a landing page for customers. So it's important to build an organic presence on the platform, leveraging the hopefully creator content that you already got.
All right. For the sake of time, we'll try to speed through this so we can leave time at the end for some Q&A. But yeah, now that Dan gave a great background on kind of market research, creative, and getting all the assets and the foundation you need to get ready to scale on an ad platform, now it's time to go over kind of the KPIs you need to be looking at to analyze your performance on your ad platforms, but also on your website. So return on ad spend, this is kind of like the holy grail that everyone always looks at. I like to call this a vanity metric. It only tells a small piece of the puzzle. Everyone, it's kind of like a measuring stick. What's your return on ad spend? What's your return on ad spend? But that only gives you a very small piece of the big picture. Return on ad spend is essentially how much you're spending on the platform and how much you're returning in revenue according to what the platform is telling you. And there's a lot of weaknesses with this since iOS 14 happened for a multitude of reasons. But the platforms like Facebook, for example, and TikTok, the way that they model the attribution right now, it's not very accurate. So if you don't have a second source of truth, if you're not looking at a more holistic view like the next metric, which is marketing efficiency ratio, you're only looking at what your return is on that first purchase. It doesn't take into account the purchases that person you acquired on Facebook, how many times did they end up purchasing, down the road, and what their lifetime value was. Return on ad spend is just how much you spent to acquire that customer. And you shouldn't really put all your eggs in this basket like many brands do. This is like the number one mistake that I see. And what we like to look at, and one of the weaknesses of return on ad spend is actually that a lot of these platforms will take credit for conversions that were actually driven from a different platform. So if you're running on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, and Snapchat is telling you have a 3x return on ad spend, they're probably taking credit for a lot of those impressions you actually serve to that customer on those other platforms you're running simultaneously. So that's why it's important to really not look at this, as that holy grail metric, and understand the weaknesses of it before you make business decisions. Marketing efficiency ratio is essentially return on ad spend, but a much more holistic view. It takes into account your customer lifetime value. It takes into account all of your different ad spends on the various channels you're running on. And essentially the equation for marketing efficiency ratio is just how much revenue did your store drive? And then how much total ad spend did you have across all of the ad platforms? You just divide the two. So if you drove $10,000 in revenue and you spent an aggregate of $5,000 across all your different marketing channels, that would be a 2x marketing efficiency ratio. And obviously the bigger that multiplier is, the better for your brand. You want to drive as much revenue as possible, as efficiently as possible. So that means higher revenue to spend ratio. And this will also take into account those customer lifetime value metrics that are so important today. If you're only looking at that first purchase and chasing that first purchase return on ad spend, and you're not focusing on arguably the more important metric, which is returning customer revenue, then you're missing out on all of that unless you're looking at that marketing efficiency ratio. And your retention marketing revenue, so email and SMS revenue, should generate at least 20% of your overall store revenue. Keep that in mind. CPM is the next one. This is the cost of your ads. How much are your ads costing per 1,000 impressions on the platform? Facebook and YouTube tend to have the highest CPMs. Doesn't mean that those aren't effective CPMs. So it's still very effective. But TikTok is why a lot of brands are really trying to make a presence now, is because the CPMs are anywhere from 80 to 90% cheaper, we're seeing on some brands. So the cost is much cheaper on TikTok, but we're also seeing lower average order values and lower conversion rates on TikTok traffic. So in the end, between Facebook and TikTok, those are the top two. And I would say the premium you're paying for CPMs on the Facebook platform are made up on the back end from average order value being higher and conversion rates being higher from traffic on that source. So click-through rate and CPM as well to keep in mind. These platforms don't really divulge how they come up with the cost for your brand, but on Facebook, for example, newer brands will always have higher CPMs until you build trust on the platform, because Facebook wants to make sure that you're a good actor before giving you better CPMs, because there have been issues in the past with drop shipping and other brands that weren't doing great customer service or kind of were overselling out of stock inventory. So as you build that trust with the platforms over time, your CPMs should drop by nature. And also, I think they look at average order value. So the higher your average order value is in the store, these platforms are very smart. They're going to charge you higher premiums to sell your higher average order value products. So click-through rate is the next one. This is what you really can control. CPM is really out of your control. That's what the platform decides. Click-through rates will tell you the effectiveness of your creatives. The higher your click-through rate on your ads, that means the better your results will be in direct proportion. So the benchmark we look at is 2%. Obviously, this is very generally speaking. Brands and different verticals and everything like that have varied CTRs, click-through rates, but 2% is kind of that general benchmark that we look at. Anything under 1% is a red flag. That means the creatives that you're deploying on the platform are not effective, they're not engaging, and you need to figure out ways to maybe come up with a different thumbnail, different hook. The first 3 seconds of your video is the hook, so make sure that it's engaging, it's grabbing people in, but also the messaging in the video is causing people to click through and look at outbound click-through rate. That means that they're clicking through the ad to get onto your website. You want to make sure that those views and the hooks that you're using are actually leading to more traffic and traffic that will actually convert on the back end. So anything over 2% is a healthy click-through rate. That means that whatever you're doing is probably working. You want to do more of it, and obviously you want to, improve it over time. So how can we iterate on the videos that are working, change up the hooks, or maybe different features of the video to get that to 4% click-through rate, 5% click-through rate, and so on and so forth. We have some brands doing over 8% click-through rates. And what Dan mentioned before on performance PR, we actually see the highest click-through rates on those type of ads because we're not directly selling a product. We're talking about the problem that a product will solve. And they are only going to see what brand is kind of like serving that ad once they click through and resonate with that problem, and they want to go purchase that product. And that's why performance PR is so powerful. Everyone always thinks about ad fatigue now. I'm sure everyone on this call sees an ad coming from a brand. They just scroll right past it subconsciously because they know it's an ad. They're not ready to buy something. But if you see a blog article about the top 5 products, top 5 sunscreens for summer 2022, or the top 5 sunglasses, that might catch your attention. You're like, oh, actually, I want to see what the top 5 trendy sunglasses are for summer. Everyone gets a summer YOLO and wants to look the best on the beach. So they're going to obviously look at what the top slot is, and then by nature, they're going to want to buy that because you already built that trust and you built their interest in the product, and now they're kind of, their guard is down, knowing that it wasn't an ad, but now they want the product without realizing that they were just sold to. Those are ways to get the click-through rate higher. This will combat ad fatigue, performance PR. Add to cart. So once you click through, your customers click through and they land on your website, what metrics should we look at? And you got to look at everything in terms of the funnel, identify problems at every level of the funnel, and then come up with solutions to increase those different benchmark metrics. Add to cart is that first one. So all of the traffic that comes on your website, the unique visitors, how many of those people are actually adding a product to cart? 10%. It should be the minimum. If anything is under 10%, that means that there are some objections you need to overcome across your potential customers to make them want to add the product to cart. 2 most common things that I see are the product price is too high. They get on your website and they're like, I don't want to spend $1,000 on a pair of sunglasses. I'm not going to add this to cart. I lost interest. So always do competitor research. Make sure your products, obviously if you're a premium product and you just sell the sunglasses for $1,000, you should still do that. But if you have similar luxury products that are, maybe $800, maybe you want to consider, but depending on your margins, dropping the price so that your competitors' pricing is more in line with yours, and you can increase the add to cart rate. Another one, add to cart buttons are often below the fold. This is another issue that I see across all websites. This could be an easy, actionable thing for you. If you look on your mobile view and desktop view, and your add to cart button is not above the fold, meaning it's on that first screen and people have to scroll to find the add to cart button, that could be a friction point that is causing your add to cart ratio to be too low. So always make sure the add to cart button is identifiable. It's not invisible. It doesn't blend in with the background of your website. It is above the fold and you can easily find it. If you don't see the add to cart button within a half a second on any web page, that's an issue. So make sure you address that. So customer acquisition cost is the cost to acquire a new customer. It's a form of CPA, which is a cost per action. Some brands have different objectives on their campaigns. Other actions like CPAs could be cost per lead generated, cost per website registration, cost per white paper download. Those are different forms of CPAs. Cost per click is a blend, as I mentioned before, of your CPMs and your CTRs. If you have a higher CPM, that means you're going to be paying more for each click. But how do we offset that? If we increase click-through rate, now you're going to be offsetting those high CPMs and getting lower cost per clicks. So we can go to the next slide here for the sake of time. I could talk about this all day, but hopefully that was helpful for you guys. So now we're going to talk about traffic and retention stack. Once you get people onto your website, what do we use? The gold standard for e-commerce. There are other great platforms out there, but the one with the lowest barrier to entry is Shopify. That's where most of our clients live. It's a much lower barrier because it is a turnkey solution and you don't require heavy developer resources internally. It's pretty, you don't need any technical background on like website design and development to launch a Shopify website and integrate all of the apps. Great apps like Stamped, you don't have to custom develop those yourself. You'd go into the Shopify app store, you would download the Stamped app, and then it would be very easy and self-explanatory to kind of integrate a lot of the apps out there. And Shopify has the biggest app ecosystem of all these app platforms. I think all these app developers are building on Shopify first. And so that's why it's the most turnkey solution. Shopify has various levels of plans. Shopify Plus is the highest level of plan. That's where you're going to get the lowest merchant processing rates. You're going to get the most features and different updates for the platform. So Shopify Audiences, I've been speaking about this one a lot. This is only available right now to Shopify Plus merchants. And so Shopify Audiences is great because this is a new targeting tool. Right now, it's only available for Facebook ads, but they're building integrations for TikTok ads, Snapchat ads, and Pinterest, along with potentially connected TV down the road. But Shopify Audience is essentially, if you're a brand, that's selling women's shoes, if you're a Shopify Plus merchant and you're processing with Shopify payments, you get access to Shopify Audiences. You would go onto your Shopify backend, you would click the audience that you would want Shopify to generate for you across the SKU you're looking to target. So if it's women's shoes, Shopify will take all of the data all the first party data that Shopify owns across all brands on their platform that have opted in for Shopify Audiences. They would actually build an audience around the SKU that you're trying to target. So if it's women's shoes, they will give you up to 2 million people that are in the market right now for women's shoes. They won't give you their personal identifiable information. It's obviously all hashed, consumer privacy driven and focused, so that we're not getting any emails from other customers, from other brands. But they will give you this audience that will integrate right into your Facebook ads dashboard. And now you can target these 2 million people that are in the market for women's shoes. So it's a very high intent audience that you can now target. This is a great feature of Shopify. And this is one of the reasons why you should consider being on Shopify Plus for features like Shopify Audiences. And this is just a great targeting tool for any brand and any marketer to find people that are in the market for your products. Another great thing for Shopify, not sure how familiar everyone is here with kind of like the market updates, but they just acquired Deliver, which was a $2 billion acquisition for Shopify to really go head to head with Amazon Prime. So with Deliver acquisition, they now acquired all these micro fulfillment centers across the country to deliver that 2-day standard shipping experience. If you're a brand that's selling in the Shopify fulfillment network, so if you're using their 3PL ecosystem through that Deliver acquisition, you can offer your merchants 2-day free shipping now. And that's what Shopify is calling the Shopify Promise. The great thing here now is that consumers do not need to pay for a membership like an Amazon Prime, which it keeps going up every year. I think it's over $100 now per year, still well worth it. But if consumers want to buy on Shopify, they can get 2-day free shipping from Shopify brands that are in the Shopify fulfillment network without having to pay for that costly membership. So this is a great incentive that Shopify is rolling out for merchants to really increase conversion rate with that Shopify Promise badge that they get on their product detail pages now, but also for consumers now they can get that 2-day free shipping experience, and they have kind of trust in the brand knowing that they're going to get that within 2 days and it'll be free to ship. So we can go to the next slide now. Top of funnel traffic. I know we're running out of time here. We could always pick up on the next part 2 of this. We can get through all of this. I don't know, Tila, did you want to open it up for questions now? Because this will probably take another 15 minutes itself.
Let's leave this as a teaser. This is the trailer for part 2. So make sure that you attend on August 4th, and we're going to dig into traffic and retention stack. We're going to hop into some questions, but really quickly, I just want to talk a little bit about Stamped and really loop it back. I know we have a few Stamped customers and Stamped users on the call, so I want to make sure that you know how you can action some of these strategies that Dan and John taught you today. So Stamped is a reviews and a loyalty platform. It allows you to collect and showcase different reviews and to build a really effective loyalty program that's focused in on that customer retention number. And if you're thinking about how do I take what I learned today and apply it, first, I'm going to have you start thinking about that market research piece that Dan was talking about as the key place to start when you're thinking about your strategy. If you are using Stamped and you're collecting reviews, you have a huge market research data set available to you. You should be reading through your product reviews and your NPS reviews to really understand what are people saying about your brand and what are those challenges that they're identifying for you. A lot of the times that information isn't something that you need to create. You already have it in those reviews in place. The next is to think about that user-generated content kind of challenge that Dan highlighted for us. We know that user-generated content doesn't perform the same way that it used to, so turning it into ads and really leveraging it in more strategic and effective ways is really important. Stamped allows you to collect kind of unlimited user-generated content. You have photo reviews, you have video reviews. You can incentivize those with a loyalty program, and then it has different features to be able to showcase those in different ways. So that's the traditional means of let's put it on the site and have it on the product page. Let's put it in our social channels, but also building it into that ad strategy that Dan was really highlighting, I think is going to be key for success. So if you're already using Stamped for showcasing reviews, think about how you can fold it into your ad strategy and take those and turn them into something like the user-generated content videos that we already saw. The final piece is to think about those stats that John was just talking about, those customer lifetime value and customer retention stats. You are wasting money if you're just searching for new customers and you're not focusing on retention. So building programs like a loyalty program to get people to stick around and to incentivize them to stick around is really going to contribute to those numbers boosting up. And you can see almost a direct correlation. We've done a few case studies with people who've implemented loyalty programs with Stamped over the past couple of years and seen 3-4 times results within a couple months, because people want to shop where they're rewarded. They don't want to have to spend time finding a new product every time, and they want to be able to build that community. So you're kind of meeting the best of both worlds and using that. I think really the sweet spot here is when you're bringing all of these different strategies. So you have your marketing strategy, your paid marketing, your social marketing, your review marketing, your loyalty marketing, and you're aligning them and making them into something really cohesive. That's what Dan was talking about, that brand performance funnel, right? It's everything all together and all the different parts are speaking to each other. So just gonna leave that there, and we'll talk about a little bit more about executing that on August 4th. And for now, let's move into Q&A and talk through some of our questions that came up. So some questions that came in the chat. David asked an interesting one. How effective, in your opinion, is word of mouth marketing? I have some ideas on this, but Dan and John, I'm curious your thoughts.
It's hard to quantify word of mouth marketing. I guess you could potentially get some insight on post-purchase surveys, but at the end of the day, I think great products that really work and providing a great customer experience is what leads to word of mouth marketing. So focusing on providing
Dan,
segment is your current customer base, especially in today's environment where it's so hard to acquire customers first time profitably. So
all right, Dan's going in and out there. The other thing that I could add for this too is to think about, if you want to start measuring word of mouth marketing, to think about reviews as the digital approach to that, or a referral program as the digital approach to that. So if you're implementing a referral program, you're able to directly tie that word of mouth to a dollar value, and you can measure the revenue impact that you're having on your brand over time. John or Annette, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think it's important to figure out how to attribute sales to word of mouth marketing and referral programs, and turning your customers into essentially like salesmen for your own company and incentivizing them to do so through different commissions you could possibly pay out, almost like affiliate commissions. That'll go a long way. So I think that is important to think about. And obviously this is going to be the highest ROI activity, because you can, if you're giving out a 10% referral commission to customers that refer somebody, that's a guaranteed 10x return on investment. I think you take that any day when you look at the return on investment on the ad platforms. So I think it's very important to kind of build that strategy, and that goes right back into retention marketing. While it's not really re-engaging your existing customers, it's empowering your existing customers to bring you some of the people in their network. So it's really important to bring that in. And I think figuring out the ways to increase focus on those high ROI activities is the thing that is most often forgotten about. when it comes to brands.
Yeah, sorry, I think my internet just like randomly cut off. But yeah, as I was saying, just providing best customer experience will lead to word of mouth. But like just focusing on word of mouth as like a channel, I think is like tough to do. So just providing the best customer experience.
Awesome. Next question. Can you share some benchmark KPIs? I'm going to encourage you to come on August 4th when we dig into those in more details. But there was a question suggested in the registration for the event when you all submitted questions too. It was questions about what steps do you take after you get ad inspiration. So if you're looking online and you get some inspiration from someone else, how do you replicate that for your own brand?
So that's really important. At first is just that first step, because ultimately that, you know, just that like muscle of constantly being just being aware of what ads at least catch your attention is the first step. So it's what we do is we have a Slack channel for everyone, not just the marketers, just everyone who sees interesting ads, puts it in that Slack channel and writes some reasons why that was compelling to them. So that alone is a great first step. Second step is then replicating that content is number one, having creators on call, on retainer who can create content for you that already are familiar with your brand, work with your team, I think is really important because speed is everything is today, especially on digital. So being able to move quickly with creators that already work for your brand, work with your team, et cetera, and can quickly emulate an ad that you know is inspirational to you is ultimately what we find as the best solution right now.
Yep, and that's why we also, all these great, you know, ads that have inspired us over time, we know have worked, we turn them into templates. So I would say if you see great ads for inspo, kind of the ones that Dan already showed, us versus them, performance PR, discovery, problem solution, figure out what you liked about that ad, turn it into a template and figure out how you can repurpose the great parts of that ad, but for your own brand so that it fits what you want to, you know, elicit in that video as well.
All right, we're running a little bit over on time. I want to be able to dig into all of these questions. So maybe let's grab one more and then we'll take note of them and make sure that we either address them in the follow-up or in our next webinar in the follow-up webinar, so either email or event. The final question here, it was a question about getting started, new businesses, both with Snow Agency, and then I'll address for Stamped as well. So we'll follow up and give you John and Dan's contact information so you could talk about working with them if you are interested in working with them as an agency. Nothing but amazing things to say for our experience in working with them and our partnership. We're really appreciative of it. And here at Stamped, we do have different packages depending on the size of your business, the amount of reviews that you're running, and the type of loyalty program that you'd like to implement. So if you're interested in getting started with that, then we can always put you in touch, get you set up for a demo, and we'll make sure that that is included in the follow-up email. So there's still lots of great questions. We are running over on time and I want to honor everyone's hour. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We're going to tackle the rest of those questions either in the follow-up email or in the next event. We really appreciate that you took an hour learning with us. Always fantastic to talk about performance marketing, to think about clever ways that we can kind of hack the strategies that we're already using. John and Dan, thank you so much for coming today and for sharing your expertise. We really appreciate having you. Annette, thank you for co-hosting here and speaking so well to Everything Stamped and Everything Snow Agency. Really appreciate it. Great questions in the chat.
Look, can you go back to the contact information slide? So if anyone wants to reach out or follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Dan and I post a lot of insights on Twitter and LinkedIn, right? There are our handles and our emails. Feel free to reach out with any questions, but definitely the best way to kind of ingest content and the insights that me and Dan are seeing. We love sharing and giving back to the community because we know that everybody here is on the same team. We want the best for the direct-to-consumer community. So we share everything that we're seeing, what's working best on our clients, what kind of angles are working, what different levers like performance PR are working. We share different case studies and different strategies that have been working, and you can draw a lot of actionable insights from that. So I encourage you all to follow us, follow Stamped. And if you enjoyed this one, we hope to see you on part 2 and potentially even a part 3, since I think, we probably do have to extend to a third part. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, hope to see you all soon. And if you are interested in performance PR, This is actually a service that our agency is about to roll out. We've been testing it internally for the past 2 years and have been seeing such tremendous results that we are now going to be making that a formal service offering. So if you are interested, reach out to us about the performance PR. We'll give everyone $500 off their first package with us for that service. So just reach out if you're interested in that service. And thanks a lot, Tila and Annette, for having us here. It was a blast, and hope to see everybody next time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you all have fantastic rest of your days.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.